I mean, let's get right down to it. You could have done anything with your Saturday night tonight. You could be at the pub with your friends. You could be at home in your boxer shorts listening to Britney Spears, sipping on some wine. Yeah. There's all the Britney Spears fans right there. Hey, no judgment. Hey, I love my Britney, I tell you what, it's all good. But hey, seriously though, instead, each and every one of you made a conscious decision to give up your Saturday night and instead spend your hard-earned money on a ticket, on a donation, on a dress, and getting your hair and nails done, which you all look great, by the way. And in fact, by show of hands, who here had to travel further than 30 minutes to get here tonight? If you had to travel further than 30 minutes, put them up, nice, so I can see you. Pretty much everybody. That means most of you will also spend your hard-earned money on a hotel room tonight, which is not cheap, especially with the cricket going on. So, hey, for that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that my hat is truly off to you. And since you're here because you want to help, can everyone see this bag behind me here? That is my deployment bag from Afghanistan, 2010, 2011. No, man, there's no bodies in there. I see you looking at there like, oh, what's this weird guy gonna do? But if you follow me close, at the end of the presentation, I'm gonna pull something out of that bag that if we all use it, and we use it wisely, this group of people right here will make a massive impact towards mental health across the world. And with that being said, once again, ladies and gentlemen, as previously mentioned, my name is Max Garcia. I am a motivational speaker, former U.S. Marine, Sergeant Major, now living here in Australia, but above all that, I'm yours for tonight. Because not only am I your keynote speaker, but I also have the honor and privilege to serve as your master of ceremonies for this evening's events. I'd like to first also acknowledge the original inhabitants of this beautiful land, the Aboriginal people. And once again, Chief Executive Officer Simon Jarvis, Founder Ian Westmoreland, board members, and of course, Emma Bromley and Mentoring Men, as well as the Curability Club for putting on such a magnificent, beautiful event. How about a round of applause for them, please? I want to tell you all something, that the real reason I wanted this particular speaking engagement, and I'm not proud of this, but the real reason I wanted this is that I've had the misfortune of having several Marines under my charge commit suicide over the years. And I'm not saying 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but countless. And you know, as a leader, I can't help but to accept some culpability for that, some responsibility. You know, not a day goes by that I don't think about Sergeant Buchanan, Sergeant Smith, Corporal Van Meter, Corporal Tonkin, Corporal Sand. Sorry, let me stop there because I don't want to allow myself to go down the mental rabbit hole. Some of you all know what I mean by the mental rabbit hole. So I don't want to let myself go down that. But not a day goes by that I don't think about them. And I'm not proud that happened under my charge. However, I will say this. One thing I am proud of are the countless suicides that I prevented on my watch. For example, 2014, I caught orders to Okinawa, Japan, which I did not want. Now don't get me wrong, Japan is a beautiful place, especially Okinawa. However, I knew that would mean deploying every 1 to 3 months for 1 to 3 months, for 3 years straight. So I didn't want those orders, and as soon as we got there, after a couple deployments, sure enough, I had not 1 or 2 or 3, but 4 personnel pass away in a very short 8-month time period, all due to non-combat related deaths. Sean Bennett died of natural causes. Private Stewart, super young, drowned in the water in Guam. And Corporal Tonkin and Corporal Santic hung themselves in their barracks rooms. And after that, things actually got better, much better in the unit. The morale of the unit was very high. We went on a couple more deployments, and I'll never forget one particular deployment. We came back, and I started making my rounds like I always do, several times a week. For those of you who are in leadership positions, especially those of you who are executives, please remember these words: engaged leadership. So I started making my rounds this one particular day where I'd visit, and when you're looking after 1,200 people, it's hard to get around, but I'd make it a point to get around and visit people in their offices, on the ranges where they're shooting, the IT geeks in the IT shop, or wherever. I'd go and make it a point to visit them, and I would always visit the barracks where the Marines live. Now, I humbly mention that anytime the sergeant major of a unit enters a workspace or any space, the enlisted Marines always stand up. It's a sign of respect. And if the Marine is under arms, if he's armed like an armed guard, they're supposed to stand up and they report their post. So this particular time, I approached the barracks, and I walk in the door, and there's a young sergeant there, sharp as can be, pops two, stands up, reports his post.
Good afternoon, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Smith reports. Barracks 3270. All secure. There's nothing unusual to report at this time. Sergeant Major.
And he cuts a salute just like that. Sharp kid. But I look over to my right, and I see that his younger Marine there with him, who is his assistant, didn't stand up, which is rare. So I look over at him, and I go,
"Hey, is anything wrong with your legs?"
And the Marine stands up really slowly, shaking a little bit. And he goes, "Sorry, Sergeant Major," like that to me. Now, part of me just wanted to brush it off because he's new. He's only probably 19 years old, young, lost. But I had a psychic moment. Something told me to keep talking to this guy. Has anybody ever had a psychic moment? You know what I'm talking about? Anybody want to admit? We all have psychic intuition. We just don't develop it. So something told me to keep talking to this guy instead of just walking away. So I looked over at him. His name was Lance Corporal Pierce, by the way. I go, "Pierce, you all right?" And he goes, "I just don't feel too good today, Sergeant Major." Like that. And he's shaking, a little scrawny, skinny guy from Kentucky in an accent like that. And anyways, when he said that to me, part of me just wanted to brush it off again. We just come back from a deployment, which means going to third world countries where Marines often get sick. Thought, might just be a bit sick. But again, I had a psychic moment. Something kept digging at me, like this little voice saying, "Keep talking to this guy." So I said, "Hey, Pierce, come with me." And I walked him back to my office. And as we walked back to my office, I quickly shifted from the disciplinarian, sergeant major mode, to engaged leader mode, to compassionate leader mode, if you will. And once we got back to my office, I had him sit down. I said, "Hey, grab a seat if you want." And I handed him a bottle of water. I go, "Here, have this." He takes the bottle of water from me. He opens it up, nice and slow. And he's shaking like crazy. And he goes, "Thank you, Sergeant Major," like that. He's real shaky. Now remember this, for those of you who are in leadership positions, especially those of you who are CEOs or presidents, vice presidents, things like that. What I did next was something that a lot of leaders don't do. Is rather than, most of the time as leaders, we talk to people from behind our desk. But that's too much separation. It's too intense. Your authority is too strong in that state. So I pull a chair up right across from him. I sit nice and close. So it's almost like we're kneecap to kneecap. And I sit down in a relaxed position where I cross my legs so he can see. This is a relaxed talk. And I say to him, I say these three words. I say, "What's going on?" That's it. I said, "What's going on, Pierce?" Remember this, for those of you who are leaders in leadership positions, we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth for a reason. All I said was, "What's going on?" And instantly, this guy started to sing like a bird. He told me everything. He told me he had been severely depressed for months. And he didn't know why, because things were going great. He had just got promoted. He had a new girlfriend. He actually liked the unit. He liked his platoon. But he didn't know why he felt severely depressed for some reason. And I just let him talk some more. He also started telling me about his family history. He told me his mother, father, brother, grandfather, grandmother, uncle, aunt, all had mental health challenges of some sort. Depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, you name it. And I just listened. And then the more I listened, the more he talked. And then he came out and told me that he had planned on committing suicide that night. I just managed to catch him at the right time. And after he said that, then he finally stopped talking. He had a little cry. And I go, "Hey brother, you seen the doc about this yet?" And he said this to me. He said, "I went to make an appointment, Sergeant Major, but the wait list was 3 weeks out for the soonest they could see me." I was like, 3 weeks? Pierce, really? So of course, the first thing I did was go down to medical and jump on somebody's desk. Because that's what we do as leaders, right? We use our authority for the greater good to look out for our people, something I refer to as servant leadership. So I go down to medical, I jump on somebody's desk, the boss's desk, and I get Lance Corporal Pierce seen that day by one of the best docs we had. And you know, they prescribed him this little tiny pill that he had to take once a day, and it made a massive, massive difference in his life. And with a heavy heart, I went home that day, almost felt like I dodged a bullet or something, which I've done before. And I went home that day, and I said to my wife, Carolyn, who's here tonight, I said, "You know what, babe? I know I didn't want to come to Okinawa, Japan, and it's been a very difficult tour. But if coming to Okinawa, Japan meant saving Lance Corporal Pierce's life, I would do it again and again and again." The point of this story, ladies and gentlemen, is that engaged leadership saved Lance Corporal Pierce's life. So the next time you're walking down the hallway at work, you should never pass by any of your employees without having a quick chat, I'll tell you that. Unless you're in charge of, say 500 people or more. You should always have a good chat. But instead of saying things like this, here's what I hear in chats all the time. People who want to do the right thing. They say, hey John, how are you? And John says, "Good, how are you?" Which goes nowhere. Instead, leaders, I recommend that you ask questions that start with a W. Who, what, when, where, why, as well as the word how, because that requires more of a response. So again, remember the words engaged leadership, because you just might save a life. So now, to the bag. What is in the bag? You might ask. Before I show you what's in the bag, I want to first say I'm truly grateful for all of your attention and participation. As you heard me say, I'm going to be your MC for the night, so I look forward to meeting all of you. If you have questions, I'll be hanging out with Wanaji back here in the back. He's the videographer, wherever he's at. Where you at? Wanaji, oh sorry, he's over here on my right. You're a sniper on me. I'll be hanging out with Wanaji. I'll probably get video testimonials from a couple of you so I can continue to serve more people. If you have an event coming up, you have questions, something you want me to speak at, please, I'd love to get your card and have a chat with you. So now, without further ado, what's in the bag? What I have in this bag, ladies and gentlemen, can make the difference for mental health across the world. Bear with me 1 second. This is what's going to do it right here. I'm going to show you all. By a show of hands, who here is old enough to know what this thing is? Who here is old enough that you've actually used one of these things before? Oh yeah, now the hands are going up. Good. For those of you who are not old enough to know what this is or to have ever used one, this is a telephone. Back in the 80s when I was a kid, we used to use these things to call people, and we actually had chats with one another. Now we all have phones in our pockets. They're very smart, but we don't use them to talk to anybody. By show of hands, who here is still old school like me and still likes to talk on the phone? Put them up nice and high. So you put them up, put them up, put them up, put them up. Excellent. All right, now, for the honest truth. Who here ignores calls but will respond to a text message in a heartbeat? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your honesty. This whole table. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, good. So, here's what we're going to do as a group to make the difference starting right here, tonight.